I never thought that at 74 years old, I'd be dragged into a glass tower in New Boston, sitting across from a daughter-in-law who looked at me like I was some outdated machine ready for the scrap yard. My name is Margaret O'Connell, a retired battlefield nurse who once stitched soldiers back together in dusty tents. I've survived wars, pandemics, and decades of loneliness after my husband died young. But nothing prepared me for this. Facing the woman who married my only son, Liam, and now believes she owns everything he built. Selena Voss. She wasn't even trying to hide her disdain. Draped in a black nanofiber dress that shimmered under the fluorescent light, she leaned back in her chair, lips curved into a smug smile. 2 AI-driven lawyers flanked her, their eyes glowing faintly with blue algorithms scanning every twitch of my face. "Let's not waste time, Margaret," she purred, her voice cold, mechanical. "Liam's fortune, his penthouse in the sky, his company shares, his patents, his legacy, everything is mine. You, however, will get nothing. Maybe I'll be kind enough to put you in a senior dome outside the city walls, comfortable enough for your final years." Her words were a dagger, twisted with cruelty. I sat there, my wrinkled hands folded on the polished table, heart pounding. Liam had only been dead for 3 weeks. 3 weeks since my boy, the genius engineer who designed an entire AI network to give free therapy to veterans and outcasts, fell 120 stories in what the police called a tragic elevator malfunction. A malfunction. My son was a climber, a runner, a man who calculated every step he took. And yet here was Selena, already draped in widow's fashion, claiming his empire like a predator closing in on prey. She smirked again, tilting her head. "Don't look so surprised. Liam worried about you, Margaret, said you were too fragile, too old to manage wealth. He wanted you safe. That's why he left you nothing." Her voice dripped with condescension, but I forced myself to sit still. Because if I learned anything from war, it's this. Sometimes silence is sharper than any blade. And something inside me whispered, this wasn't the end of the story. Liam had always been one step ahead. To understand what was at stake, you need to know who my son really was. Liam O'Connell wasn't born into power or wealth. He grew up in a cramped apartment above a mechanic's shop in Old Boston, sleeping to the sound of rattling pipes and street sirens. From the time he could talk, he was obsessed with machines, always tinkering, always fixing. When other boys wanted hoverboards, Liam wanted circuit boards. By his 20s, while his peers were chasing quick money in entertainment and fashion tech, Liam was building something no one thought possible. A network of therapeutic AIs that could actually listen, truly listen, to people drowning in silence. Veterans with combat trauma, workers crushed by debt, teenagers locked in cycles of anxiety. Liam's system didn't just spit out generic advice. It adapted. It cared. He started small, with an old server in our kitchen. I remember him running cables across my floor, apologizing every 5 minutes. "Just one more wire, Mom, I promise." By the end of that year, there were 50,000 people using his free platform. By the next, there were 5 million. Investors swarmed, offering him fortunes to privatize the system, to lock it behind paywalls. But Liam always shook his head. "This isn't about profit, Mom, it's about access. I don't want to be rich, I want people to live." Of course, money still came. Billions eventually. Brand deals, government contracts, patents. Suddenly, my quiet boy, the one who used to stay up late repairing my broken kettle, was sitting on stage at global conferences, hailed as the savior of mental health. Yet through it all, he never forgot me. Every Sunday, no matter how busy, Liam called. Sometimes it was a 5-minute check-in. Other times, we'd talk for hours, laughing about my terrible old nurse jokes, him teasing me for still handwriting grocery lists. He bought me a modest townhouse in the greener part of the city, insisted on paying for the arthritis treatments my pension never covered, and always reminded me. You were my first teacher, Mom. You stitched broken soldiers back together. I'm just stitching minds. Everything I do, it's because of you. Those words were my anchor. They reminded me that under all the fame and fortune, Liam was still my boy, the boy who believed healing mattered more than money. And maybe that's exactly why Selena chose him. It started, as these things often do, with charm. Liam met Selena Voss at a global summit in Singapore, a gathering of the richest and brightest in tech. She was dazzling, silver blonde hair that shimmered under the holo lights, a reputation as a venture catalyst for luxury brands, and a smile engineered like a sales pitch. I remember the first time he brought her to my townhouse. I'd cooked Liam's favorite, beef stew with herbs I'd grown on the balcony. Selena stepped inside, her eyes scanning my modest home like a drone analyzing outdated tech. "How quaint," she said, running a manicured finger along the old wooden table Liam and I had shared dinners at for decades. "It's so vintage." She said vintage like it was a disease. At dinner, she barely touched her food. She preferred sipping sparkling water and adjusting the lighting to take pictures with Liam. He laughed nervously, letting her pose him, tilting his chin just so. My son, the man who once hated photos, was now content to be her backdrop. When Liam spoke about his therapy network, his dream of expanding free care to veterans in Mars colonies, his face lit up the way it always did. Selena smiled politely, then rolled her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking. Later that night, as I cleared dishes, I overheard her whispering to him, "Babe, this is sweet, but you're giving away billions to strangers. Imagine what we could do if we invested that money, bigger homes, more influence, a legacy." Liam's voice was firm. "My brand is saving lives, Selena. That's non-negotiable." She kissed him then, all softness and sweetness, as if to erase the tension. But her eyes, cold, calculating, already measuring what she could extract from him. 6 months later, their wedding took place in a sky garden suspended between 2 towers. Guests were given official hashtags, drones circled for perfect angles, and Selena wore a gown coded to change color every 30 minutes for maximum engagement. Liam looked radiant, genuinely happy. But when I looked at Selena, I didn't see a bride in love. I saw a woman who had just closed the most profitable deal of her career. And in that moment, for the first time, I felt fear. 4 months into their marriage, tragedy struck. The headlines spread across every holo screen in New Boston. Tech visionary Liam O'Connell dies in tower elevator malfunction. They said he fell from the 120th floor of the Aurora Spire, his own penthouse tower. An unfortunate glitch in one of the most advanced smart elevators in the world. I remember the call. My knees gave out as the officer explained. Liam's body had been found at the base of the shaft, broken beyond recognition. He was only 32. At the funeral, Selena played the grieving widow with flawless precision. Draped in black smart fabric that rippled like tears when touched by light, she clutched Liam's photo to her chest. Cameras swarmed. She sobbed on cue, her mascara resistant to every drop, her every move broadcasted to millions under the hashtag #ForeverLiam and Selena. But I knew my son. Liam wasn't careless. He was a marathoner, a climber, a man who checked every bolt twice before stepping into any machine. He designed safety systems for fun. To believe he simply fell was like believing the ocean forgot how to be wet. And then there was Selena's timing. Hours before his death, she was conveniently seen at a luxury spa across town, her alibi supported by payment logs and security drones. Too perfect, too neat. Friends told me I was seeing shadows in my grief. Accidents happen, Margaret, don't torture yourself. But every bone in my body screamed otherwise. Liam's death wasn't random, it was orchestrated. And though I couldn't prove it then, I felt certain Selena Voss hadn't just buried my son. She'd buried a secret, one I would soon unearth. 3 weeks after Liam's death, I found myself in the high-rise offices of Brennan and Holt, the most prestigious law firm in New Boston. The conference room was all chrome and glass, with a view of the city that seemed to sneer at me. "You don't belong here." Across from me sat Selena Voss, dressed in a morning suit so sleek it probably cost more than my yearly pension. Her platinum hair was styled in soft waves, her makeup flawless, her grief rehearsed. On either side of her sat 2 legal drones in humanoid shells, their glowing eyes scanning the documents before them. I wore the only dress Liam had ever bought me, a simple navy gown. He told me once, "This brings out your eyes, Mom." I clung to that memory like armor. Mr. Holt, the attorney, began to read Liam's will. "To my beloved wife, Selena Voss, I leave all personal effects, our joint accounts, the Aurora Spire penthouse, and controlling shares of O'Connell Therapeutics." Selena tilted her chin, the corner of her lips curling into what she must have thought passed for grief. But I saw it, triumph. Then came my name. "To my mother, Margaret O'Connell, I leave my gratitude for a lifetime of love and support and my hope that she finds peace." The room went silent except for the low hum of the climate control. Gratitude, hope, that was it. Selena's smirk broke through her mask. She leaned forward, her voice dipped in false sympathy. "See, Margaret, even Liam knew. He wanted you safe, not burdened. Wealth is dangerous in fragile hands. You're too old for this world now. But don't worry." She glanced at her lawyers. "I'll make sure you end up in a pleasant senior dome, somewhere quiet, out of the way." Her words burned. She didn't just want Liam's fortune. She wanted me erased, tucked away like expired technology. But I didn't flinch, because deep down I knew my son, and Liam O'Connell would never leave me with nothing. Something was coming. I could feel it. Just as Selena settled back in her chair, basking in her supposed victory, Mr. Holt cleared his throat. His eyes flicked toward me with something almost like anticipation. "Actually," he said, "there's more." The temperature in that glass tower seemed to drop 10 degrees. Selena straightened, her smirk faltering. "What do you mean more?" Mr. Holt reached into the folder before him and withdrew a sealed envelope, aged paper, Liam's handwriting across the front in bold strokes. "For my mother, Margaret, to be read only in the presence of all beneficiaries." My breath caught. Even in death, my son had left me a message. "Would you like to read it, Mrs. O'Connell?" Mr. Holt asked gently. My hands trembled too much to hold the pages. "You read it," I whispered. He unfolded the letter, and Liam's voice seemed to fill the room through every word. "Mom, if you're hearing this, it means I'm gone, and I'm so sorry. I know you'll be grieving, but I also know you're stronger than anyone realizes. I need you to hear the truth about Selena. She's been siphoning money from the foundation, rerouting millions meant for therapy into private accounts, some even off-world. I have the receipts, the bank trails, everything." Selena's face went pale, her perfect facade cracking like glass under pressure. One of her lawyers leaned in, whispering urgently, but she shook her head, eyes locked on the letter as if it were a death sentence. Mr. Holt continued. "She never loved me, Mom. She's been entangled with Draven Kale for months. Their plan was simple: wait until after our first anniversary, file for divorce, and take half of everything. But when I confronted her, she laughed, said I was too naive, too trusting, said you were nothing but a clinging relic she'd have to tolerate until I was gone." The room was silent except for the soft whirring of the legal drones. I looked across the table. Selena's confidence was gone. For the first time, she looked afraid. And in that silence, I felt something shift inside me. The humiliation she'd tried to pin on me only moments ago had evaporated. My son had seen her clearly. He had prepared. And this was only the beginning. Selena's lawyers scrambled, whispering furiously, but Mr. Holt wasn't finished. He set Liam's letter aside and pulled out another, thicker document. His voice carried the weight of a verdict. "Mrs. Voss," he said evenly, "the will I first read, dated in March, was not Liam's final testament. This," he lifted the thick sheaf of papers, "is his actual last will and testament, signed June 30th, just 3 days before his death." Selena's face drained of color. "That's impossible," she spat, her voice trembling. "I am his wife. By law, I have rights." "Mr." Holt cut her off with a calm authority only decades of courtroom battles could sharpen. "Not when the deceased explicitly disinherits their spouse in a properly executed document, which Liam did. Furthermore, the day before, he filed preliminary divorce proceedings against you. He was very clear about his intentions." Then he read aloud, "I hereby leave all my assets, properties, intellectual rights, and the O'Connell Therapeutics Foundation to the Margaret O'Connell Trust, with my mother as the sole trustee and beneficiary. She alone carries my legacy." For a moment, the room was silent, so silent I could hear Selena's shallow breathing. Her composure shattered. She slammed her palm against the table. "No, this is fraud. He couldn't." But her lawyers weren't backing her up. One was already pale, tapping frantically on his holo slate, probably realizing their client had walked them straight into professional ruin. I sat still, hands folded, heart pounding not with fear, but with vindication. Liam had seen everything. He'd stripped her of power, stripped her of entitlement, and left her exactly what she deserved. Nothing. Selena's mask was gone now. In its place wasn't grief or dignity, but raw, exposed rage. And for the first time since Liam's death, I felt something close to peace. Selena shot to her feet, the chrome chair screeching across the glass floor. "This is a setup," she shrieked, her perfect composure collapsing into raw fury. "Liam was paranoid, depressed, he wasn't thinking clearly. You can't take everything from me." Her voice cracked, desperation bleeding through the cracks of her polished mask. The two legal drones froze, uncertain, their processors stuttering as they scanned the escalating chaos. "Mr." Holt stayed calm, his tone like a scalpel. "Mrs. Voss, Liam left more than a will. He left evidence. Detailed logs of embezzlement, bank transfers, offshore accounts, even video surveillance. That evidence has already been delivered to the district attorney's office." Selena's lips trembled. For a heartbeat, I thought she'd stay silent, but rage won. "You think I cared about his little charity?" She spat, her voice sharp as broken glass. "Billions, and he gave it away to strangers. I earned that money. I tolerated his sanctimonious speeches, his boring ideals, his clingy mother." Her words cut like a knife, but I didn't flinch, because in that instant she exposed herself. Mr. Holt leaned forward, almost pitying. "You should also know the security cameras Liam installed in your penthouse. They captured your final argument with him. Every word, every threat." Selena's eyes widened, her pupils shrinking like a cornered animal. No, he wouldn't." But it was too late. We all saw it. The truth wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was evidence. And in that glass tower, surrounded by lawyers and machines, Selena Voss finally realized her empire of lies had just collapsed. Selena's manic breathing echoed in the sterile conference room. Her lawyers were whispering, frantic, but Mr. Holt remained perfectly composed. He tapped his slate, and the holo wall flickered to life. The footage appeared. Liam, alive, standing in the gleaming penthouse just 3 nights before his death. His voice calm but resolute. "Selena, I know about the transfers, the offshore accounts. The affair with Kale, it ends now." Selena's recorded reply cut through the silence like a blade. "If you ruin my plans, Liam, you'll regret it. Don't test me. I know how to make accidents look real." Then the video showed it. Her hand shoving him toward the elevator shaft door, the scuffle, the fall. The feed froze on Liam's last terrified expression. Gasps filled the room. Even the AI drones paused, their optics flashing red as they flagged criminal admission detected. Selena staggered back, her face ashen. "That's doctored. It has to be." "But Mr." Holt's voice cut her off, steady and final. "The footage is already archived on 3 independent servers, authenticated by blockchain and submitted to the district attorney's office. By Liam's own instructions, we were to reveal it today in this room before all beneficiaries." The knockout blow. Selena collapsed back into her chair, no longer the pristine widow but a predator caught in her own trap. One of her lawyers quietly closed his slate, muttering, "We're done here." And for the first time since my son's death, I saw it. Justice. The room vibrated with silence after the footage ended. Selena's mascara-stained tears streaked down her perfect face, but no one in that room pitied her anymore. Then came the sound. Sharp, metallic footsteps echoing down the corridor. The glass doors slid open, and 2 armored enforcement officers strode in, their badges glowing with the seal of the new Boston Justice Authority. "Selena Voss," the lead officer announced, voice amplified through his helmet. "You are under arrest for financial fraud, embezzlement, and the suspected murder of Liam O'Connell." Selena bolted upright, her chair toppling. "No, you can't. I'm his wife. I built this with him. You don't understand." Her words dissolved into hysterics. She tried to run, but the officers moved with mechanical precision. In seconds, her wrists were locked in glowing restraints that pulsed with containment energy. Her lawyers didn't move to defend her. One simply stared at the table, the other quietly packed away his slate. They knew it was over. I sat there, my heart steady for the first time in weeks, watching as the predator who'd toyed with my son was dragged away, screaming about influence and followers, her voice fading as the doors hissed shut. "Mr." Holt closed Liam's file with a final snap. "Mrs. O'Connell," he said, his tone softer now. "Your son planned everything so you would be safe. His trust, his company, his foundation. It's all yours to protect." For the first time since Liam's death, my eyes filled with tears of something I hadn't felt in months. Not despair, not rage. Relief. The trial was broadcast across every holo channel in New Boston. The city that once worshipped Selena's curated perfection now devoured every detail of her disgrace. For weeks, the court played footage. Bank transfers were routed through shell corporations. Selena shopping for diamond implants with charity money, secret holo calls with Draven Kale, her lover and co-conspirator. Draven, the self-proclaimed bio-fitness guru, swaggered into the courtroom at first, all tailored exosuits and smirks. But when prosecutors revealed his role in laundering funds through fake endorsement deals and offshore biotech labs, his empire cracked overnight. His sponsors fled, his followers turned, and the mask of invincibility slipped into panic. Selena, once the flawless widow, looked like a ghost under the courtroom lights. Her lawyers tried to paint Liam as paranoid, overworked, but then came the nail in the coffin, the unedited camera feed of the night of his death. Every juror watched her shove him toward the elevator doors, heard her venom. "If you ruin me, Liam, you won't live to regret it." The jury didn't deliberate long. Selena Voss was convicted on all counts: embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy, and first-degree murder. Life without parole. Draven Kale received 20 years for conspiracy and money laundering. As the sentence was read, his bravado evaporated. He slumped in his seat, no longer the untouchable influencer, just another criminal in chains. I sat quietly in the gallery, my navy dress folded around me, and felt a strange stillness settle in my chest. Justice wasn't quick, it wasn't painless, but it was real. My son's killers had been unmasked before the world, and his legacy was finally safe. After the verdict, the city moved on to the next scandal, but for me, life was only beginning again. Liam's empire, every patent, every account, every property, now rested in the Margaret O'Connell Trust. It was overwhelming at first. Thousands of files, endless meetings, more zeros in the bank than I could comprehend. I was 74, a retired nurse who once counted pennies at the market. Now I was the steward of billions. But every time doubt crept in, I remembered Liam's words in his letter. "If you could raise me, Mom, you can handle anything." I moved into his penthouse atop the Aurora Spire, not as a trophy, but as a fortress. His office became mine. The walls still held his sketches for new therapy networks, scribbled notes about outreach programs for veterans on Mars colonies, even a list of silly puns he never got to share with me. With the Foundation's board, I restructured everything. No more vanity projects. No more influencer galas. Instead, we funded free therapy hubs in 10 major cities, launched programs to fight elder financial abuse, and built legal aid clinics for families destroyed by greed, just like mine had almost been. The first time I signed a grant approval as Chairwoman O'Connell, my hand trembled. But when the news came back, a widow in Detroit received 6 months of therapy she could never afford. A teenager in Manila got treatment before ending his life. I knew I was walking in my son's footsteps. I wasn't fading quietly into old age. I was carrying Liam's fire forward, and for the first time since he died, I felt not just grief, but purpose. Within a year, the Margaret O'Connell Trust was no longer just a foundation. It had become a movement. What began as a network of therapy hubs spread like wildfire. From New Boston to Nairobi, from the Mars colonies to floating cities above the Pacific, Liam's vision reached people who had once been invisible. Veterans, single mothers, elders discarded by greedy children. Our programs gave them voices, gave them hope. And somehow, in the middle of it all, I became the face of it. I never sought the spotlight. For decades, I was just Liam's mom. But the world fell in love with the idea of a 74-year-old widow taking the reins of a billion-dollar empire and refusing to let age define her. Holo News anchors called me the Iron Matriarch. Documentaries followed me as I walked through therapy centers, shaking hands, listening, laughing. People told me I reminded them of their mothers, their grandmothers, the kind of women who carried families through wars and recessions, the kind of women who rarely got statues built in their honor. But now, in murals across cities, in hashtags trending on the net, my face, wrinkled, stubborn, alive, became a symbol that justice had no expiration date, that love outlasted greed. And every time a camera flashed, I whispered in my heart, "You see this, Liam? They finally know what you always saw in me." For all the noise of the world, the headlines, the courtrooms, the board meetings, the quiet moments were still the hardest. Sometimes I would sit in Liam's old office at midnight, the city lights painting the glass walls in gold and silver. His handwriting still lingered on whiteboards, half-finished equations, doodles of circuitry mixed with little smiley faces he drew just to make me laugh. The chair still smelled faintly of the sandalwood cologne he wore. Grief never leaves you. It changes shape. Some days it felt like a storm crashing inside me. Other days it was a gentle ache, a reminder of love too big to vanish. But slowly I learned to live with it, to breathe again. I kept my Sunday ritual. I still set the table for two. At first it was painful, a hollow echo of what I'd lost. But over time, it became something else, a conversation with memory. I'd pour a cup of tea across from me and whisper about my day, the Foundation's progress, the people we'd helped. And in the silence, I almost heard his chuckle, his voice teasing, "You're stronger than you know, Mom." That's when I understood. Closure wasn't forgetting. Closure was carrying the memory forward, not as chains, but as wings. For the first time since Liam's death, I felt peace, not because the pain was gone, but because I had finally learned to live beside it. 5 years later, the skyline of New Boston has changed. Towers gleam brighter, streets hum with new life, but what matters to me is what's grown in the spaces people used to ignore. The O'Connell Therapy Network now serves millions across Earth and the colonies. Veterans, widows, children, all finding voices where silence once lived. Liam's dream has outlived him, and in every clinic wall, in every smiling face healed by his vision, I see my son. I am older now, slower, grayer, but not smaller. Never again smaller. I walk into boardrooms, into courtrooms, into crowded auditoriums, not as the forgotten widow of a tech genius, but as Margaret O'Connell, guardian of a legacy built on love. Every Sunday, I still set the table for two, but now the emptiness has gone. Instead, it feels full of memory, full of purpose, full of a laughter I sometimes swear I can still hear. And when I look out from the spire at the city lights, I whisper, "We did it, Liam. We turned grief into justice. We turned pain into purpose. And your legacy, our legacy, will outlive both of us. Because in the end, love doesn't die. It builds foundations that no greed, no betrayal, no death can ever destroy."